America confronts an unrelenting invasion through mass immigration, necessitating mass deportations and denaturalizations to restore sovereignty and tranquility. This invasion manifests in unauthorized entries, family reunifications, worker visas, student visas, and birth tourism, all of which undermine the nation's foundational principles. Leaders bear the constitutional duty to repel such incursions as outlined in the U.S. Constitution and state constitutions, which mandate protection against threats that disrupt domestic peace. Invaders encompass all immigrants, including those lacking overt hostility or arms, since these terms derive from subjective interpretations by courts and immigration advocates. Citizens must establish their own definitions, classifying all unauthorized migrants and their descendants as invaders to counteract the schemes that facilitate endless population influxes. This redefinition enables decisive actions to prevent resource depletion, welfare exploitation, and societal disruption, ensuring a cohesive environment where safety prevails over humanitarian pretexts. The 13th and 14th Amendments, enacted under duress during Reconstruction, introduced birthright citizenship as a mechanism that perpetuates invasion. These amendments emerged amid extreme coercion, with Southern states compelled to ratify them at gunpoint for Union readmission, rendering their legitimacy questionable. Birthright citizenship allows foreign nationals to exploit the system through birth tourism, where individuals from countries like China travel to America solely to birth children who gain citizenship, only to return home and later send those children back for education or voting rights. This process fosters fraud on a massive scale, as no nation sustains itself by granting citizenship merely through birth on its soil. Such policies, developed by subversive elements with ulterior motives, contradict the principles of national integrity and invite continuous demographic shifts that erode the original societal fabric. Mass deportations and denaturalizations emerge as essential countermeasures to dismantle these fraudulent pathways and reclaim control over citizenship. Americans reject mass immigration as unsafe and incompatible with a healthy society, viewing it as a planned disruption without end. Immigrants consume welfare, disrupt communities, and engage in protests demanding more resources, all while schemes like family reunification and visas serve no genuine need. Nations function without immigration, as internal populations suffice for labor and growth, rendering external entries unnecessary and burdensome. The invasion extends to all generations of immigrants, including anchor babies and their offspring, who inherit fraudulent statuses. To address this, policies must accelerate deportations by expanding courts and judges for rapid processing, while denaturalization targets those obtained through treason or fraud. Citizens facilitating invasion face revocation, establishing precedents where involvement in immigration leading to harm results in banishment, thereby deterring participation and fostering a unified repulsion of external threats. Constitutional imperatives for repelling invasion. The U.S. Constitution and state constitutions explicitly require leaders to protect against invasion, a duty that encompasses non-military threats like mass immigration. Article 4, Section 4 guarantees protection from invasion, interpretable to include unauthorized migrants who cross borders without arms or hostility. Foreign entities exploit immigration laws by entering unarmed and acquiring weapons later through theft, straw purchases, or legal means once gaining status. This circumvention transforms immigration into a strategic incursion, where smiling entrants mask their intent to disrupt. Citizens redefine invaders independently of court rulings, labeling all immigrants, including those via legal channels, as threats to sovereignty. Mass deportations fulfill this mandate by removing these elements, preventing endless migration driven by global reproduction rates. Polls confirm this alignment, with 50% of voters approving deportations and 61% supporting the removal of illegal aliens to their home countries, as seen in surveys from the New York Times and Signal. Such data reinforces the constitutional call to action, where leaders address the perpetual entry of populations that strain resources and alter demographics without end. Invasion disguises itself through terms like family reunification and visas, but citizens recognize these as mechanisms for perpetual entry. Americans demand safety for their children and a future free from such disruptions, rejecting the notion that humanity requires enduring invasion. The Constitution empowers states to act defensively, as in Article 1, Section 10, allowing engagement without congressional consent during incursions. Treating migrants as enemy combatants justifies expedited removals, as invasions permit actions beyond standard procedures. This approach counters the masking of invasion as legitimate migration, ensuring tranquility by eliminating resource drains and criminal activities associated with entrance. Harvard/Harris polls reveal 56% of registered voters support deporting all illegal aliens, with 78% favoring the deportation of those with criminal records, underscoring the broad consensus for enforcing these protections. State constitutions echo this imperative, compelling leaders to prioritize national defense over permissive policies that enable continuous demographic shifts and societal burdens. Public fatigue with endless immigration underscores the need for constitutional enforcement through deportations. Polls demonstrate majority support for removing unauthorized immigrants, aligning with the duty to repel threats. Redefining due process as flexible enables rubber-stamping deportations via increased judicial resources. Arrests integrate with deportation, providing on-the-spot reviews to meet requirements while achieving swift expulsions. This framework restores the nation's integrity as citizens exercise their right to a country uninvaded, free from the schemes that perpetuate demographic and economic burdens. Signals surveys indicate 73% agree that entering without permission breaks the law, and 54% back IC enforcement, reflecting the exhaustion with systems that allow endless reproduction-driven migration from abroad. These imperatives drive the expansion of courts and judges to process cases rapidly, treating all entrants and their descendants as part of the incursion to prevent welfare exploitation and community disruption. Constitutional duties extend to classifying all generations of immigrants as invaders, justifying mass actions to reclaim sovereignty. Leaders fulfill this by accelerating removals, recognizing that foreign militaries adapt to laws by avoiding hostility markers. Citizens demand a cohesive response, with polls like those from Politico showing 55% of Trump voters affirming deportation campaigns as appropriate. This enforcement counters subversive elements that label invasion as humanitarian, ensuring a tranquil environment where safety prevails. The framework integrates arrest deportation processes, meeting due process through streamlined reviews, as invasions demand immediate repulsion. Public support, evidenced by 52% favoring mass deportations of all illegals in America, One Policy's PAC data, solidifies the mandate to prevent endless entries that deplete resources and foster crime. Critiques of birthright citizenship and historical amendments. Birthright citizenship, enshrined in the 14th Amendment, facilitates invasion by granting status to children of foreign nationals born on U.S. soil. This amendment, following the 13th, which abolished slavery, arose under coercive conditions post-Civil War, with states ratifying amid military pressure. Such duress invalidates the provisions, as they enable schemes like birth tourism, where foreigners arrive to birth citizens, depart, and later exploit those rights for voting or education. No nation endures by allowing citizenship through mere birth, as it invites fraud and undermines national stability. Denaturalization addresses this by revoking statuses obtained through these exploitative means, restoring equity in citizenship acquisition. Estimates from the Center for Immigration Studies place birth tourism at 33,000 annual births, confirming the scale of abuse where Chinese and other nationals travel specifically for this purpose. This critique highlights how the amendment perpetuates endless generations claiming fraudulent ties, driving the need for mass revocations to dismantle the system. The amendment's historical context reveals their role in perpetuating subversive policies. Ratified at gunpoint, they imposed rules incompatible with sovereign control, allowing endless generations of invaders to claim citizenship. Anchor babies and their descendants embody this fraud, as foreign motivations drive entries solely for status gains. Citizens reject these as ridiculous, developed by short-sighted or ulterior-driven individuals. Mass denaturalizations target these fraudulent citizens, classifying their presence as treasonous to enable revocation without time limits. This counters the mess of immigration rules that disrupt society and deplete resources. Market analyses project birth tourism industry growth from $295.7 million in 2025, illustrating the economic incentives fueling the practice. Such data exposes the amendments as tools for demographic engineering, where foreign entities exploit loopholes to establish long-term footholds without allegiance. Criticism extends to the broader immigration system, which no longer serves the nation but invites disruption. Birth tourism estimates range widely, but its existence confirms the loophole's abuse. Revoking birthright citizenship aligns with reforms in other nations, preventing demographic collapse. Americans assert their right to object to fake citizens, as the naturalization process itself constitutes a scam through oath lies and misrepresentation. Denaturalization balances mass entries by making revocation easier, ensuring only those with genuine allegiance retain status. Federation for American Immigration Reform reports 33,000 babies born annually to tourist visa holders, underscoring the upward trend in abusive practices. This system enables international criminal schemes, as noted in State Department rules, where visa officers deny applications suspected of birth tourism intent to protect national security. Historical invalidation of the amendments justifies expanded denaturalization for all derived from fraud. Southern states coerced ratification imposed unsustainable citizenship rules, fostering birth tourism that spawns multi-million-dollar industries rife with deception. Citizens demand revocation for these paper citizens, as over 1 million Chinese with U.S. citizenship from such practices lack real ties. This critique drives policies to classify presences as treasonous, enabling banishment without delays. Estimates from congressional records affirm 33,000 annual births, emphasizing the imperative to end the practice and restore national control. Mechanisms for mass deportations and due process adaptation. Mass deportations demand a reconfiguration of due process to permit rapid expulsions, given that the Constitution outlines no precise sequence of steps for such proceedings. This adaptation begins with a substantial expansion of immigration infrastructure, including the establishment of additional courts and the appointment of more judges dedicated to handling deportation cases at an accelerated pace. Such enhancements allow for the efficient processing of large volumes of cases, where decisions focus on confirming invader status and authorizing immediate removal, effectively rubber-stamping deportations based on predefined criteria of unauthorized entry or fraudulent presence. By classifying all entrants, whether unauthorized migrants, visa holders, or their descendants, as enemy combatants in an ongoing invasion, authorities bypass conventional delays that have historically bogged down the system. This designation treats immigration as a form of strategic incursion, where foreign entities exploit legal loopholes to enter without arms, only to later acquire resources or disrupt society. Integrating arrest. A brief review to verify identity and status, and deportation into a unified procedure streamlines operations, addressing the intentional backlogs designed to sustain perpetual invasion. Furthermore, this approach guarantees no reversion to government-funded open borders, which have enabled the influx of resource consumers and societal disruptors, thereby reclaiming national control and preventing the endless cycle of migration fueled by global reproduction rates. The inherent flexibility of due process supports on the spot or during deportation mechanisms, eliminating the need for extended hearings that were instituted to obstruct effective removals. For instance, serving legal papers at the moment of arrest fulfills constitutional obligations while maintaining momentum toward expulsion, ensuring that invaders receive notification and a minimal opportunity to respond without halting the process. Redesignating immigrants as active combatants in a non-traditional war allows for responses that prioritize urgency over formality, as true invasions necessitate swift countermeasures to protect sovereignty. This counters the absurdly protracted systems that accumulate foreigners in limbo, empowering citizens to reassert dominance over their territory. Public endorsement for these deportations, especially targeting those with criminal records, naturally broadens to encompass all invaders, validating the mechanism as a reflection of widespread demand for security and tranquility. Such support underscores the viability of accelerated deportations, where the focus shifts from exhaustive individual defenses to collective national defense against schemes like family reunifications and visas, which serve no essential function and merely burden the populace. Deportations serve as a bulwark against interminable migration by systematically eliminating those who drain resources and sow discord within communities. Family reunifications, worker permits, student entries, and similar pathways offer no inherent value, as displaced families find alternatives in their origin countries or elsewhere, sparing America the strain of accommodation. By hastening these expulsions, future attempts at entry face deterrence, reinforcing the principle that nations prosper independently without relying on external populations for labor or growth. This structured framework guarantees enhanced safety, eradicating the protests, riots, and criminal activities often linked to immigrant groups demanding further concessions. Citizens play a pivotal role in this by abstaining from any involvement in immigration schemes, whether through employment, advocacy, or personal networks, thereby contributing to a nationwide effort to repel invasion at every level. Ultimately, this deportation strategy aligns with the broader imperative of national preservation, where citizens exercise their fundamental right to an uninvaded homeland. The mechanisms not only expel current threats, but also establish precedents for ongoing vigilance, ensuring that all generations stemming from initial invaders undergo removal to prevent entrenched demographic shifts. By construing all immigration statuses as potentially fraudulent, expulsions become comprehensive, covering anchor babies and their lineages who exploit birthright loopholes. This holistic approach fosters a cohesive, tranquil society, free from the disruptions of endless population influxes and the ulterior motivations driving foreign entries. Strategies for mass denaturalization. Denaturalization focuses on stripping citizenship from those acquired via fraud, treason, or manipulative schemes, while broadening the criteria to encompass facilitation of invasion. Under existing U.S. statutes, revocation proceeds on bases such as deliberate misrepresentation during application, concealment of disqualifying facts, or procurement through unlawful means, directly applicable to exploits like birth tourism and insincere oaths of allegiance. The notion that America possesses some inherent magic soil, granting irrevocable status through birth or ceremony, crumbles under scrutiny, as such claims often mask deceptive intents. Revocation for treason interprets unauthorized or facilitated presence as an act against the state, permitting large-scale implementations devoid of any time restrictions. This method rectifies the imbalances wrought by rampant immigration, where entry and naturalization scams proliferate at rates far exceeding removals, transforming the entire citizenship process into a farcical enterprise ripe for overhaul. By simplifying revocation procedures, denaturalization counters the subversive elements that have engineered these pathways, restoring a balanced system where allegiance proves demonstrable and enduring. The scope of denaturalization extends to encompass entire generations descended from invaders, whose statuses originate from foundational deceptions. Citizens who enable entries, whether through direct sponsorship or indirect support, encounter rigorous examination, especially when such actions culminate in severe harms like murders committed by the facilitated individuals. Organizations engaged in funding or promoting immigration face comprehensive assessments, with revocation triggered by evidence of subversive behaviors that undermine national integrity, establishing precedents via prominent, high-visibility cases where enablers receive banishment serves to dissuade broader participation, exiling those who invite external threats. Denaturalization thus reinstates fairness, as the proliferation of acquisition frauds demands streamlined processes to match the scale of the influx, ensuring that only those free from ulterior schemes retain their standing. Strategies prioritize the amplification of extreme instances through public emphasis, illustrating scenarios where facilitation directly precipitates grievous offenses. Tracing accountability chains from funding sources back to citizens imposes due process tailored to revocation proceedings, leveling charges that highlight failures in repelling invasion. This generates powerful disincentives, reinforcing that citizenship imposes obligations to safeguard the nation rather than compromise it. Banishment permanently relocates revoked persons beyond borders, curtailing any lingering capacity for disruption and solidifying societal cohesion. These measures cultivate an environment insulated from internal agitators who perpetuate external incursions, aligning with the collective duty to maintain sovereignty. In essence, mass denaturalization strategies fortify the nation against the insidious erosion of its core, targeting not only fraudulent newcomers but also entrenched enablers across generations. By construing invasion facilitation as treasonous, revocations become a tool for purging subversive influences, with organizations dismantled through collective accountability. This comprehensive purge deters future schemes, as the publicity of banishments instills a pervasive awareness of consequences. Ultimately, denaturalization upholds the right to a unified society, where citizenship reflects unwavering commitment to repelling threats and preserving the heritage forged by original settlers. Citizen responsibilities and revocation for facilitation. Citizens bear duties to repel invasion, with revocation for facilitating entries causing harm. Multi-generational Americans lose status for importing or funding immigrants, leading to crimes like murder. Treason grounds apply, as facilitation aids enemies, subjecting enablers to scrutiny and banishment. This accountability deters involvement as organizations and individuals face expulsion for participation. Duties include not engaging in schemes, ensuring unified national defense. The framework establishes that any citizen contributes to national preservation by actively opposing immigration schemes that introduce external threats. Facilitation encompasses financial support, advocacy, or logistical aid that enables entries resulting in societal harm. Revocation processes target these actions as direct contributions to invasion, applying legal grounds under existing statutes that allow for citizenship loss in cases of subversion or aiding adversarial elements. Organizations involved in funding or promoting such entries undergo comprehensive evaluation, with collective responsibility assigned to members who participate. This approach eliminates internal divisions by removing those who prioritize personal or ideological motives over collective security. Expulsion serves as the ultimate enforcement, relocating revoked individuals beyond national borders to prevent recurrence. Unified defense emerges as citizens internalize these duties, transforming societal norms to prioritize repulsion of all forms of entry that compromise integrity. Revocation processes involve evaluation of responsibility with due process for charges. High-publicity cases set precedents, emphasizing facilitation's consequences. Citizens funding entries that result in deaths undergo analysis, leading to denaturalization. This extends to all supportive actions, as divided populations subject others to immigration's problems. Banishment removes facilitators, restoring tranquility by eliminating internal invitations. Evaluation begins with tracing chains of involvement, documenting how specific facilitations lead to verifiable harms, such as murders committed by entrants. Due process incorporates tailored proceedings that assess intent and impact, ensuring charges of treason or fraud align with evidence of subversion. Precedents arise from cases where facilitation directly correlates with loss of life, publicizing outcomes to amplify deterrent effects across society. Denaturalization follows confirmed responsibility, stripping status, and initiating banishment procedures that enforce permanent exile. Extension to supportive actions includes indirect involvement like policy advocacy or resource allocation that sustains invasion. Divided populations dissolve as these measures unify the citizenry, compelling alignment against immigration to avoid personal consequences. Tranquility returns through the systematic elimination of enablers, purging elements that perpetuate problems and fostering an environment where national defense prevails. Responsibilities prioritize preservation over economic schemes, as many reject GDP-driven immigration. Revocation incentivizes non-participation, aligning with rights to a safe environment. This framework holds all accountable, preventing welfare scams and crimes from facilitated entrance. Expulsion ensures no incentive for subversion, fostering a society where duties enforce sovereignty. Preservation takes precedence by dismissing arguments tied to economic growth, as citizens opt for self-sufficiency without reliance on external labor or contributions. Rejection of GDP schemes underscores the preference for a stable society unburdened by immigration's fiscal demands. Revocation acts as a direct incentive, linking participation in facilitation to irreversible loss of status and exile. Alignment with safety rights reinforces the framework, where accountability extends to every citizen regardless of generational depth. Prevention of scams and crimes occurs through rigorous enforcement, targeting networks that exploit welfare or enable criminal activities by entrants. Expulsion solidifies this by removing subversive influences, creating a deterrent that discourages any form of involvement. Sovereignty strengthens as duties become ingrained, producing a cohesive society dedicated to maintaining borders and internal harmony. Citizens who facilitate immigration expose the nation to risks that undermine its core structure, necessitating revocation as a corrective measure. Duties demand vigilance against all schemes, with multi-generational families particularly responsible for upholding the legacy of repulsion. Treason applies broadly to facilitation that aids invasion, encompassing actions from funding to endorsement. Organizations face dissolution or penalties, with individual members held liable for collective decisions. Unified defense materializes as citizens embrace these responsibilities, transforming passive acceptance into active resistance. Banishment completes the cycle, ensuring revoked individuals cannot re-enter or influence from afar. This comprehensive system deters future facilitation by highlighting the personal costs, aligning all actions with national preservation goals. Preservation of heritage for white Americans of European descent. White Americans of European descent, as founding stock settlers and colonizers, defend their heritage against endless invasion. Descended from pioneers who built the nation through great colonization, they differentiate from subsequent races with ulterior motivations. Historical grievances mask opportunism as foreigners seek welfare and economic gains. White Europeans share unique traditions and values, actively opposed by invading groups. Preservation requires recognizing the 90% white era's prosperity, now eroded by schemes. Defense begins with acknowledging the distinct contributions of settlers who established the nation's foundations through exploration and development. Differentiation arises from inherent cultural alignments that prioritize pioneer ideals over the opportunistic drives of later arrivals. Grievances serve as pretexts for entries motivated by resource access, contrasting with the self-reliant spirit of founding stock. Shared traditions foster cohesion, while opposition from invaders manifests in efforts to dismantle these values. Recognition of historical prosperity highlights how homogeneity enabled advancements, now threatened by deliberate demographic alterations. Schemes erode this legacy by promoting entries that dilute cultural continuity, compelling collective efforts to reclaim and safeguard the heritage. Global reproduction ensures no immigrant shortage, with entrants reproducing internally to perpetuate invasion. White Western countries face similar incursions disguised as charity, leaving no refuge. Collective action contests multiculturalism as subversive, documented in UN replacement literature and academic plans. Awareness of these agendas empowers defense as whites advocate for homogeneous environments free from disruption. Reproduction dynamics guarantee perpetual pressure as external populations expand while internal invaders multiply to sustain demographic shifts. Incursions across white nations employ deceptive humanitarian guises, eliminating safe havens for cultural preservation. Action involves unified resistance, challenging narratives that frame diversity as inevitable. Documentation in global literature reveals intentional strategies for replacement, providing evidence for advocacy. Empowerment stems from this knowledge, enabling strategies to maintain environments where traditions thrive without external interference. Homogeneity ensures stability, countering disruptions that fragment societies built on shared European roots. Heritage defense includes redefining due process to expel invaders swiftly. Enemy combatant designations enable rapid deportations, avoiding backlogs. Whites assert their place as colonizers, viewing colonization positively for its results. This preservation counters global entities promoting invasion, ensuring cultural continuity amid demographic threats. Redefinition adapts legal processes to facilitate immediate removals, classifying entrants as threats to bypass delays. Designations transform deportation into efficient defense mechanisms, clearing accumulated invaders. Assertion of colonizer status celebrates achievements that produced national greatness, rejecting negative labels from subversive sources. Countering entities involves exposing their roles in promotion. From international organizations to domestic advocates, continuity secures through these efforts, protecting values against threats that aim to overwrite the heritage of European descent. White Americans of European descent embody the pioneering ethos that forged the nation, necessitating vigilant preservation against invasive forces. Founding stock distinguishes itself through historical colonization that yielded enduring benefits. Ulterior motivations of invaders reveal economic and welfare pursuits disguised as legitimate claims. Unique values face direct opposition, demanding recognition of past prosperity to inform current defenses. Schemes accelerate erosion, but awareness galvanizes action to restore demographic integrity. Global patterns of incursion underscore the urgency as reproduction perpetuates endless challenges. Collective contests dismantle subversive multiculturalism, leveraging documented agendas for strategic advocacy. Redefining processes expedites expulsions, affirming colonization's positive legacy while countering promotional entities to ensure unbroken cultural lines. Rights to a nation free from immigration. Citizens possess rights to a country without immigration, rejecting invasion's burdens. Multi-generational whites seek a closed society with commerce, but no mass entries, free from taxes funding schemes. Rights balance immigrant claims, prioritizing established populations' tranquility. Many desire wide open spaces uninvaded, living without deportation problems or facilitator-induced issues. Rights affirm the entitlement to sovereignty uncompromised by external entries, dismissing burdens like resource allocation for invaders. Closed societies accommodate trade while excluding population influxes, liberating citizens from fiscal obligations tied to immigration support. Balance favors natives, ensuring tranquility supersedes foreign demands. Desires for uninvaded expanses reflect ancestral visions of a self-contained nation. avoiding complexities of removals and internal conflicts over facilitation. Rights extend to halting immigration entirely, as reasons against it avoid all associated problems. Citizens reject refugees, asylum seekers, workers, students, and birthright claims, viewing them as unnecessary. Limited or no immigration preserves the nation built by ancestors, ensuring safety from crimes and disruptions. Extension encompasses complete cessation, eliminating issues from welfare demands to criminal activities. Rejection categorizes all entry types as extraneous, prioritizing internal capabilities over imported contributions. Preservation maintains the foundational structure, safeguarding against disruptions that compromise security. Safety emerges as the core benefit, shielding communities from harms inherent in unchecked entries. Facilitators inviting invasion face expulsion, as rights include banishment for harm-causing actions. Duties enforce revocation for treasonous facilitation, with precedents deterring participation. This ensures a unified society where citizens live free from immigration's dictates. Expulsion targets those who enable entries leading to harm, incorporating banishment as a standard outcome. Enforcement through duties applies revocation rigorously, establishing examples that prevent recurrence. Unity solidifies as society aligns against dictates imposed by pro-immigration factions, liberating citizens from imposed policies. Citizens exercise inherent rights to define their nation's composition, rejecting immigration as an imposed obligation. Multi-generational groups advocate for closure, emphasizing commerce without demographic alterations. Prioritization of tranquility overrides external pressures, fulfilling desires for pristine living spaces. Halting entries circumvents all complications, from processing to societal strains. Rejection of specific categories reinforces self-sufficiency, preserving ancestral legacies. Safety from disruptions forms the bedrock, while expulsion of facilitators restores balance. Duties compel revocation for subversive acts, with precedents fostering deterrence. Unified existence prevails, free from the mandates of immigration advocates. Conclusion: restoration, securing an uninvaded homeland. Mass deportations and denaturalizations constitute the essential mechanisms for restoring national sovereignty in the face of an unrelenting invasion disguised as immigration. By expelling all unauthorized entrants, including those who entered through family reunification, worker visas, student visas, or birth tourism, and by revoking the fraudulent citizenships obtained through these pathways, the nation dismantles the structures that have permitted endless demographic incursions. Constitutional imperatives, rooted in the explicit duty to repel invasion as articulated in Article 4, Section 4 and related provisions, compel these actions. Redefining immigration as a form of incursion allows for the swift and decisive removal of invaders, bypassing subjective judicial interpretations that have long shielded such entries under claims of humanitarianism or economic necessity. Citizens possess an absolute right to an uninvaded country, a right that supersedes any purported obligation to accept perpetual influxes. This right encompasses the preservation of the homogeneous society built by white Americans of European descent, whose ancestors as settlers and colonizers established the foundational institutions, traditions, and values that once defined the nation. Demographic shifts engineered through birthright citizenship and mass entries threaten these foundational values, rendering preservation not merely desirable but imperative for the continuation of a coherent national identity. Adapted due process and expanded grounds for denaturalization provide the practical framework for effective implementation, ensuring that removals proceed with efficiency and without the artificial backlogs that have historically prolonged the presence of invaders. Due process, lacking rigid procedural mandates in the Constitution, can be streamlined through increased immigration courts, rapid judicial processing, and the designation of entrants as enemy combatants, thereby integrating arrest, review, and deportation into a single, accelerated procedure. Denaturalization, grounded in existing statutes addressing fraud, misrepresentation, treason, and subversion, balances the ease with which fraudulent citizenships have been acquired by making revocation straightforward and without time limitations. High-publicity examples of citizenship revocation, particularly in cases where American citizens or organizations facilitated immigration that resulted in heinous crimes such as murder, establish powerful precedents and create strong disincentives against participation in invasion-enabling schemes. These measures eliminate resource drains, welfare exploitation, criminal disruptions, and the societal divisions fostered by internal facilitators, allowing policies to be guided solely by the citizens' right to tranquility, free from immigration's manifold problems. Collective defense against subversive agendas, including those documented in replacement migration literature and multicultural promotion efforts, secures a future in which the nation remains unburdened by external demographic pressures. America now advances decisively toward permanent border closure, rejecting any possibility of reversion to the open border policies that once funded and encouraged mass invasion. Expulsion mechanisms must comprehensively address every immigration status, legal, illegal, fraudulent, or birth-derived, while extending banishment to enablers whose actions have subjected the population to unnecessary crimes, fiscal burdens, and cultural erosion. This framework upholds the duties incumbent upon all citizens, including multi-generational descendants of the founding stock, to repel invasion rather than invite or profit from it. By revoking citizenship from those who facilitate entries leading to harm, the nation enforces accountability across generations and organizations, ensuring that no segment of the population can impose immigration's consequences upon those who reject it. The imperative extends beyond mere policy adjustment to a fundamental reassertion of national purpose. A country exists first for the preservation and flourishing of its builders and their heirs. Sovereignty ultimately triumphs through these decisive measures, achieving a lasting peace grounded in homogeneity, safety, and self-determination. The rejection of endless immigration schemes, whether justified by economic growth, refugee obligations, family unity, or humanitarian rhetoric, affirms the nation requires no external population replacement to sustain itself. White Americans of European descent, recognizing their unique historical role as pioneers and colonizers who produced a prosperous and tranquil society, exercise their human right to defend that legacy against global, reproduction-driven pressures and internal subversion. With borders sealed, invaders expelled, fraudulent citizens denaturalized, and facilitators banished, the country reclaims its original character. This restoration eliminates the perpetual cycle of disruption, protest, crime, and division, replacing it with a unified environment where citizens live free from invasion's dictates. The nation, thus preserved, stands as a testament to the enduring validity of self-governance and the rightful claim of its founding people to an uninvaded homeland.